Okay, it's about time to go to our second match, and that took place at Rugby Park on Saturday as the hosts managed to do something for the first time that they haven't done since July, it must be, and that's defeat a team that is not named either Celtic or Rangers, and that's Killie beating Livingston by 3-1. Killie opened the scoring, but Livingston came back before Killie took the lead again before half time, but that even was quite generous probably on the visitors to equalise and to be within a goal at half time, because I only watched the first 60 minutes of this basically until it went 3-1. But to me, Craig, it looked like a thoroughly dominant performance from your boys.
Yeah, it was much needed for Killie, and it was a good performance. It was the result was much more important than the performance for Killie in terms of the way the season had been going, and just like not like, as I say, we hadn't won a league game since the opening day, so like just getting a win. But the fact that they both came in tandem was a really good thing, and aided and abetted by an absolutely dreadful Livingston performance. I think because Livingston haven't lost a lot of games this season, but I think the problem they had in this game is that they came up against a team whose strengths lie in very similar places to where theirs do, but who also have better players. So it's probably potentially the worst opponent they could have got. And Martindale said after the game that they were bullied, and to an extent they were physically matched by Killie, but also they were outplayed as well. Killie had a lot of the ball and used it well, and created a hell of a lot of chances. Not like glaring chances, but like openings constantly. And it was one of those where when they got that penalty, which a really daft challenge, obviously started to worry about more of the same from the season. But the fact we got the goal just before half time probably made it a comfortable afternoon. In the second half performance from Livingston, I don't think I've seen as bad a 45 minutes from a team anywhere at this level in a very long time. They were hopeless in the second half.
Yeah, we'll get on to talking about Livy a bit more, but let's focus on Killie for the meantime. Kyle Vassell, I mean, he got 2 goals, but even without his 2 goals, I thought he was tremendous. It was. I was trying to think what he reminds me of, and this is weird because I've used this before, but I've used it to describe defenders who aren't very good, because it's something that I think they call defenders in basketball. If they're not good, they call them a turnstile. You can just go through them.
Mm.
Kyle Vassell is a turnstile for up front. So, but what I mean is, like, it comes up to him, like the play comes up to him. It slows because he's not the quickest of men, but it still funnels through him. He manages, by hook or by crook, whatever he does, whether he even sometimes without even touching the ball, he just got that manhandling ability over his opposing defender that it just seems that, so whatever way he does it, the ball goes up to him, and then it'll slow for a bit, and then it'll just keep going. The move will keep going through.
Yeah,
So it's a turnstile in a good way.
I mean, I'm glad you clarified that for us, Craig. To be honest, but I do see what you mean, and at least it's not the Hampden turnstiles, or the ball would be with him for like 45 minutes before it went anywhere. But
I suppose it's not modern turnstiles where there's somebody trying their best to get a QR code against them.
He is a phenomenal physical specimen in particular, and apart from all the injuries are because of that as well. It's like his body is a shape that I don't think humans should really have a body in many ways, but he is so box office to watch because he's a very physical, very aggressive player, but he's got a really good touch as well. And you saw that wee bit of kind of creativity with the setup for the opening goal when he kind of holds the ball up, as you say, for so long. Because it's funny watching it back. And you see him getting the ball into his feet, and Ndaba's not even started his run, and Vassell's already got the ball. But as you say, he holds it up and he slows it down for so long that Ndaba's able to make the overlap, and it's a nice back heel. And then he gets the 2 goals himself. He certainly could have had more as well. He is central to absolutely everything. And I know when I said this before, when we spoke, Craig, about when he got the new contract last year, I was unconvinced at that point, but more or less ever since he signed that deal, he's been an absolute standout and very much captain material as well. He's a really good captain, I think, and he does a lot of that stuff. And it was a definite. There were lots of good performances for Kelly yesterday, but he won the sponsors man of the match, and unsurprisingly so, because he was a colossus in that game. But as I say, all round, I mentioned Ndaba, getting him back. I think the start of the season, the first few games, he was a real find, and he really stood out, and then got that injury. But having a natural, it's weird that I think Ipswich fans keep saying, "Oh no, he's been playing left back, but he's actually a centre half." That boy's not a centre half. That he's too good to be a centre half. Like, he's too good with the ball, and he's too good at running and all the rest of it. Like, Stuart Findlay's a centre half. Like, Stuart Findlay is shit on the ball, but Ndaba's like so confident, like strutting into midfield and getting into attacking positions. He made a big difference. And then Lewis Mayo is the opposite of any other centre half you ever seen, that he's like so calm on the ball. He's a Jack Hendry of the defence, if you want to put it that way. He had a really good game, and the difference, I think, from previous performances with Liam Polworth in a game like this where it was frantic, he was the guy that calmed it down and put his foot on the ball. And I'm not the biggest fan of Liam Polworth, but in a game like that, he offered exactly what was needed, because even in situations where he would have the ball kind of maybe on his own touchline, and most players are just lashing it, but he's just like taking a second to wait until basically drawing their player, and then clap a ball around the side of him, and all these things that when everyone else is running about, he seemed to be watching the game at a different speed. So there was just so much to like about the performance on the whole. But I am, just in the same way that I've not been getting too down on some of the defeats, because I think the draws more than defeats. We've drawn more than we've been losing, where I think there's enough evidence that the team is clicking. I'm not going to put too much stock in this win, because I do think Livingston were very bad.
Yeah, we could may as well go to them now. Actually, before we do, just to wind it back slightly, one question I had to ask, because you talked about two members of the back three there. Having returned to the back three, I was surprised to see it was Robbie Dees that was on the bench.
Yeah, so it seems to be, it's always going to be a hard one there, because I think Stuart Findlay wasn't a player that Derek McInnes was expecting to have this season. I feel like he signed this team, he had the team in his mind, with Dees as the kind of centre half there, and then the opportunity to sign Findlay comes up, and he's like, you obviously take it, and he's been good, and I think he had a good game again. Joe Wright's the one that obviously of the others is maybe less obviously good, but I would say it's always hard to tell how he played, but Wright was more of a right back in this game. I would say certainly it was much less of a back three than it's always in between the two, but he definitely did that, and I thought Wright had a really good game. And the thing that Wright offers you is the fact that he's right sided, and unlike Mayo, who is right sided and can play full back and all the rest of it, Mayo is not physically as adept. So dealing with like Nouble, who spent a bit of time out there, Wright did really well in that position, as he did last season against Livingston in the first game, but he also scored twice in that game. So I think Dees, it's a funny situation, because he's been the standout, or was the standout at the start of the season, but I think he may find it a wee bit hard to get back in for the next wee while, until someone does badly, to be honest. And I mean, so be it. I think he's still adapting. He's still his first season at the top flight and all that, so it won't do him any harm if he's maybe only playing 30 games or 25 games. That'll be okay, as long as he's still playing.
Euan, Joel Nouble, could he be dropped, or do Livingston just have that little in attack that it's hard to drop him even when he's playing consistently as badly as he is at the moment?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if Livingston do have some forward players that have like flashes of like not just him. So obviously you got Bruce Anderson, who's consistent enough. Sangari, I like. You can argue whether he's gonna, what sort of, does he come from midfield or start, sort of. I mean, I think he could probably do a bit of the Nouble role. I mean, Guthrie, I don't rate at all. So, and you do know that Nouble eventually he probably will do something, the other forwards aren't capable of. But it's a shame that I think it does look like his sort of Livingston career is going to sort of peter out
We
I
were
mean,
chatting. Sorry.
on you.
We were chatting about this yesterday, and the fact that like the decline in his performances is like playing into the hands of him ending up at like Kelly or someone of our level rather than like some of the, you know, it was a bit like when Eamon Brophy, like when he bust through and you're like, oh, he's, you know, going to get a big move, and then he ended up signing for St Mirren, and no harm to St Mirren, and they were paying him more than we were at the time, but it could be one of those situations. And it was funny because I don't know what you thought, Craig, when Joel Nouble is on the pitch, sometimes it turns into the Joel Nouble show in the terms of how everyone tries to play the game. Because you could see, and it probably helped us that we've seen him more than most, I guess, of the championship as well. We were like defending very specifically to counter Joel Nouble. Like it was like when the ball went to him, we were actually letting it bounce first. Like we weren't even challenging him, and then it was only once he got on the ball that we were kind of going towards him. And there were a couple of times, as bad as I agree with you, didn't play well. We just crowded him a wee bit, but he found like a really nice like through ball and completely opened up the game, because we had like the vortex that was Joel Nouble had sucked everyone towards them, and Livingston didn't capitalise on those. But I feel like in a different world, because I think one of them was just before we scored the opening goal. In a different world, one of those chances goes in, and it's like, oh, look at the impact that Nouble's had here, and it's a funny player, and yeah, it's weird to see him. I feel like he's being restricted now, because I think he used to be a wee bit of a secret weapon, and now he's like the game plan, and I think that doesn't help him.
I would love to see him as like like an additional element to a team rather than being the team, which it does feel like a lot of the time he is at Livingston. So, but yeah, you don't know whether he'll get the kind of move where that actually is going to be the case, or if you'll end up at a team that he's sort of the main man at again. But yeah, I obviously it's not going to plan, because the plan was for him not to be at Livingston this season, clearly. But he's there. I can't see him moving in January. So unless a team, I don't know, like a Ross County or something, maybe you could see maybe they would chuck some money at Livingston, possibly. But whether Livingston would sell if they're sort of maybe in a bit of a relegation scrap with a team like Ross County or whoever. But yeah, I would say it looks like you'll leave on a free at the end of the season. And yeah, the level he goes to, as you say, he could well be turning up at Killie next season. Who knows?
Before we move on, just something I noticed in kind of researching this. So I watched the game, and I remember a couple of times. There's one in particular, Marley Watkins. I think he ended up having the shot himself, but he won the initial header over Mikey Devlin. And I was like, that kind of sums this game up so far, that Marley Watkins is winning headers over Mikey Devlin. And then after watching the first 60 minutes, I just went on the Pie and Bovril forum to see what Livingston fans were thinking about the game. And there was one that's a few kind of pointed out that their defence just isn't as strong with Io Obilai in there, and that makes a lot of sense. He's been quite solid for Livingston ever since they signed him from Queen of the South, I think before the start of the 21-22 season. And then it was saying, somebody said, I like Mickey Devlin, but he doesn't really win many headers. And I was like, hang on a minute, that doesn't sound like Mickey Devlin. So I went and checked his stats on Wisecout. I think he's got a problem. I think he's got a problem due to the injuries. I don't think he can head the ball anymore, or he can't get off the ground, because his career average for heading the ball is 68% he wins of aerial duels. This season, he's at 51. And last season, with a very small sample size, this season isn't a big sample size either, but last season, an even smaller sample size, he was at 49.
How big was it? Did he not just play one game last season, or did he play for Aberdeen before January?
That was including playing 4 or 5 games for, I think it was Fleetwood. He was at first.
I was like, where was he? Oh yeah, Scott Brown signed him. I was like, he played like 3 minutes for Hibs.
I thought it was 1 minute up front. Yeah. So I was like, maybe he was up for 2 headers at that time. Fair play.
He only had like 2 90 minutes. I think he played like 6 games across the season, and he had like 2 90 minutes.
Mikey Devlin was atrocious yesterday from start to finish. Like, not like in the air, yes, he got bullied a bit, and Watkins. I mean, Watkins is an absolute pest, so he will win headers against anyone because he just is like quite smart and knows where to put his body. But he was the one who immediately after Kelly scored, like, got caught in possession as well, and then he was the one that it wasn't a red card, but he had the aerial challenge on Watson, and then he definitely catches Watson with his arm, and you see as he goes down, he's like in Watson's face, like it's
that
like,
was ridiculous.
it was very strange, which was actually an interesting incident because I was watching, like they had a bit of a stop for a VAR check for a while, and I don't really know what for because I think the challenge clearly wasn't a red, so I don't know if it was maybe for something in retaliation. But I was watching the ref quite closely, and it looked like he was like about to point to go to the screen and then changed his mind, and it was almost like they went, no, actually there's nothing, and I don't think there was anything unless there's something we missed. So it was just a bit weird, that incident in the whole. And just on that, like, I don't know if they were worried about a high profile VAR incident missing something so soon after like the Scotland game and stuff, because all three of Kelly's goals, I'm quite a pessimist when it comes to VAR, and if there's any minor thought of an infringement in the lead up to a goal, I'll kind of have it hanging over me about, oh no, should I be celebrating this, or are we going to... No, all three of those goals, I was immediately like, yeah, this is fine. There's absolutely no way there's possibly anything. And yet every single one of them, he had to delay the kickoff, like even with the celebrations and the players coming back and all the rest of it. And I have no idea for any of the three goals what they could possibly have been looking at, to be quite honest, but he had to properly delay it. And I don't know if that was unusual, I would say, even by VAR. Like, mostly the checks are done by the time the players are ready to kick off, but all three goals, I don't know if there was... It felt odd. There was something almost like they were just being absolutely sure on these. But anyway, that's not a comment in the game, but it was just... Mikey Devlin was bad. Louis De Lucas, not as bad, but also very bad. He is a very strange player. He looks like he's got his feet on the wrong way whenever he tries to kick the ball as well. Like, he shanked 3 or 4 clearances out the park. I think it was him. It was someone for Liverpool. I think it was him. Had a shot from the edge of the box that went out between the two stands, like in the corner, as well, which was quite impressive. But Livingston, for a team that I wasn't quite singing their praises the last time we were on, but I was saying, they seem to be back towards the old Livingston in terms of like the way they're playing. It's just rotten. The fans didn't seem happy either when Bruce Anderson got taken off. There was a lot of boos from I think it was for him going off from the away end as well. Which, considering that, like, as we know with Livingston, it's not that big a crowd that they bring, and it wasn't at the weekend. For the boos to be quite so loud from that number of fans suggests it was quite a unanimous opinion